And we're up.
We're live.
We are. Here we are.
Is that what you're saying? We're live?
And
We're
we're
actually live.
live.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Go ahead, Zev. You go ahead and lead us off today. That'd
Well,
be
let me
great.
just say that this is a very unusual and sad day that we're connecting here on
Yes.
this very special report, and we're doing it via this different software because we want to be able to bring other voices in. So this might not be the usual setup that you're used to here on Substack, but it is an
Well,
important
let me just.
way for us to do this, to bring a wider variety of voices in. And to be able to look at the video and to be able to understand the events that happened today with the visuals, with the visual way. Uh, yeah, now I'm hearing myself come back at me. Let me just figure out what that is, and in a second.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks, Zev. Appreciate it. While you're figuring
Uh,
that out,
Am
one of the
I,
things that
am I frozen? I look frozen over there.
no, no, you look great. You
Oh,
look great. I got
oh,
you
okay.
live here. I got you live here. Might just be on your end, but Lev, something struck me today. We're talking obviously about Charlie Kirk's murder, assassination at the hands of a gunman today at Utah University. Um, you know the man, and you were visibly distraught today. Obviously, the loss of human life at any capacity is a big deal, but wanted to kind of get your take on your relationship with Charlie before we get started today, because you seemed to be incredibly bothered by, and rightfully so. I mean, what you saw, you know the man, but just a little bit of your history with Charlie Kirk, where you met him, and we'll go from
Yeah,
there.
sure. So first of all, seeing anybody, get, I guess, executed or assassinated and seeing what transpired, because of politics is, just a disgusting place that we've reached as a country that, and as a society and what we're dealing with. So it's something that really got to me, but also got to me not only because I know Charlie, but also because I have my own son that's like Charlie, that's out there,
Mm,
doing the same thing out there, speaking and giving, his political and reporting the news and basically putting his life on the line as we could see every day. So, as a father, it got to me really, to see that we don't have, free speech anymore. It's you have to
mm,
watch what you say. The division that our country has reached. It's just it reached a boiling point. As far as Charlie goes, I met Charlie. I think it was 2018, maybe 2017, uh, when I was closely with the Super PAC America First. That was Donald Trump's Super PAC at the time, which he basically controlled. And Charlie was introducing me everything that he was 24, somewhere around like that. She was also, they were both. uh,
what's happening to the audio there? I don't know if it's is that a problem for you, Dean, as well? You hearing Lev there? Or,
yeah.
okay,
Having a problem with your audio there,
just
Zev.
try
Lev.
again. Just
Is
see if
it
that might be better now. We're
So you
is
better.
it
met him in
is it
twenty twenty seventeen. Yeah,
is it
better now.
Yeah.
Yep,
is that better?
Yes.
yep,
Is that better? You hear me
Yes.
yep,
now?
yep, yep. So you met Charlie in
I don't hear you guys.
2017.
Hello?
Oh, you can't
Mm.
hear us?
Oh no.
Hello, hello, hello.
Well, we're here. Can you hear us, Dean? Lev, are you able to hear us? I can hear Dean, and Dean can
Is that
hear
better?
us. Um, are you there? I don't know if your battery may be running dry or something like that.
No, I think
Yes, yeah,
he's coming back. Yeah,
like he's
yeah, yeah.
popping in. Okay.
He popped out. Here he comes. Here he
Um,
comes again.
it's so incredible hearing from Lev, who knows, Charlie, who knows so many people on the right here. That it's so important to be able to get that perspective. Let's see if we can hear Lev now. Hey, Lev, you can you hear us?
Is that is that better, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I met Charlie, I think it was around 2018, maybe late 2017. He was introduced to me at the time when I was involved with the Super PAC America First, which was basically Donald Trump's Super PAC at the time. And they were, I think Charlie was 24, 25 at the time. And they were going to be the leadership for the generation of for the Gen Z. I'm sorry, my daughter's just going to sleep, so I apologize for that.
No, no, no problem.
But the leader of the new Gen Z, they were going to go out there and bring the young vote to the Republican Party, to the Conservative Party. And I was, pretty close with them at the time because my own son Aaron was, I think Aaron was 17 at the time, maybe I think 17, 18 at the time, just starting George Washington Law School. And I was excited because I was part of the cult, one of the leaders of that cult. And I was excited. And I was trying to have Aaron actually join the Charlie and Candace in their movement to spread the conservative message. And Aaron, obviously, as you guys know him, he's a very, bright young man. And at that time, he was a little brighter than his father, and he didn't realize that that was not what he wanted to do, and kind of walked away from it. We even, I remember arguing over it because I thought that that was a great opportunity for him to go college campuses, being at his young age, law school, aligned with Charlie Kirk. But thank God Aaron didn't go because, and is now uh, on the good side, as we call it. So
Mhm.
that's,
Can you talk a
my
little bit more
first
about?
meeting Charlie. And obviously I've ran into him, and I've into a lot of different events back in the first administration. So from all I could tell you about him, he was different than the others. I mean, his ideas were very, maybe white nationalist, and he's very, religious, Christian oriented, religious, and maybe, me and him probably didn't agree on a lot of things, especially now. But he was one of those guys that was different than the rest of the MAGA, where they would attack you personally and try to go after you. He tried to debate you. He would go out, and I always gave him props for that, because he would be one of those guys that try to debate you skillfully, factually. And I think that's why he had such a popularity with the young voters, and that's why he was able to bring such a big, that young voter crowd to Trump.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that whole Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk sort of combination? That they really were this very new thing for the right wing. They hadn't had an outreach to the younger generation, and here were these two superstars, or superstars in the making, who were able to actually reach an audience inside the right wing. And it was a very powerful movement, basically Donald Trump's youth movement. Um, Tell us a little bit more about that advent. And it was incredible that Aaron was asked to be part of that, and its impact has been quite great. Oh, we keep losing him. I
Yeah,
don't know.
he'll pop in again. He'll
Yeah,
pop in again. Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
because he's got Lev's son. Just so everybody understands, Lev's son runs a Substack account, one of the biggest on Substack, called the Parnas Perspective.
yeah.
And that is the polar opposite. Sorry, Lev, great to have you back. We're just giving context
Yeah.
about
Do,
the Parnas
do you hear me? Do you hear
Parnas
me now?
perspective.
Yeah, we hear
Yep,
you.
gotcha. The
Okay.
Parnas perspective, Lev, Zev, but we're talking about Aaron's his history. Very, very bright young man who has turned his opposition to what Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens did into this incredible platform. So, and Zeb was saying, tell us a little bit about, that movement where, Aaron almost got caught up in it. And thankfully he didn't. Obviously, today was a great indicator of your son's, judge of character, or judge of the situation, to be more fruitful. But tell us a little bit more about, when you met Candace and you met Charlie Kirk, what the intention was of Turning Point USA at the time.
Well, you gotta remember also, very importantly, my mindset at the time, when I met Charlie, when I met Candace, I was hardcore, MAGA. This was like maybe 2 years into it, around 2018, once Trump, and this is when we were gearing up for the midterms and gearing up for 2020. This was like, at that time. And one of the biggest things, I remember when we were getting together in certain conversations, back then, Brad Pascal would,
Mm.
who was leading the
Trump digital team.
technology Trump digital team. Yes, thank you, Zev. Brad would come in and say, we need to target the young vote. That's where we need to go after the young vote. And Charlie started Turning Point before that. This was, I think, when he was maybe 4 or 5 years prior to that already. He started Turning Point USA, and he was out there as a young kid, around 18, 19 years old, going out doing it. So he was already a young and up and rising star in the GOP movement. And uh, the reason why I was able to be around him and get to is because America First, the super PAC, there was several different lots of super PACs, but America First, the one that I donated the $1 million to, and the one that I ended up going to prison over, was literally Donald Trump's super PAC. It was his, Don Jr. was in it. You had Tommy Hicks at the time, who later became the co-chair of the GOP, Roy Bailey, who was Giuliani's partner, and stuff like that. So it was basically, even though you had the super PAC had to have, distance between, the president, the candidate, whoever you want to call it. This was a little bit differently. This was known that once you belong there. So this super PAC is what took, excuse me, took Charlie and Candace and brought them in and started this, giving them the funding and the power and the backing, basically to go out there and start spreading, getting colleges, getting the young vote, and start getting them more on the GOP and the conservative side.
We should catch.
So let me ask
Sorry.
you. Sorry, let me ask you a question then. If the America First Super PAC, which you were involved with, funded Charlie, did you, at some point in time, when you get to know the young man and you're starting to understand what he's all about, was he a true believer in MAGA, or was he playing a role for MAGA? Like, that's
No,
the question I have watching some of today's festivities.
yeah, no, Charlie was a true believer. Charlie was, also very religious, a true believer in his religion, and that's what gave him that hardcore, mega belief. And yeah, no, he was definitely a true believer, hardcore, in that, what's it called, America First,
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah, so he wasn't, because this is kind of one of the things that a lot of people don't understand about MAGA is you have abusers of MAGA, and then you've got true believers in MAGA, right? Like you really do. And some of the true believers are some of the best foot soldiers for MAGA. And Charlie Kirk, whether you agree with him or not, had maybe the biggest footprint
Mhm.
of the youth movement when it came to conservatism in the United States of America. He was more influential than people like us in our vintage. We're all in our
Everything, yeah.
early 50s to be able to sway the minds, the hearts of young men and women at over 3,500 campuses across the United States. Just to give you some perspective about the influence of Charlie Kirk, right, Lev?
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know the numbers. We'd have to look him up, but I mean, there's tremendous amount of chapters. I mean, listen, I mean, at the end of the day, Charlie Kirk was one of those guys that you want to have on your side. I mean, he was a true believer. He did the right way. He wouldn't insult you. He'd come out there, debate you with facts. He was persistent in what he wanted to do, and you might like him, you might hate him, but he definitely did not deserve anywhere near what has transpired today. I mean, he has two young kids, a young wife, and I think the take from this whole thing is where we are as a country today, as a society today, is how divided we are, and it doesn't matter if you're on the right or on the left, if you're in the middle, it doesn't matter what you believe in. You should not be scared to be able to talk what you want to talk about. I mean, you
Mhm.
should not be able to scare, especially if you're not out there, spewing hate and racial divide and stuff like that. But to be able to get assassinated or killed or threatened, and sometimes we forget, but I get death threats all the time, and my son gets death threats all the time, and we've gotten like used to living with it because of the society, and the world we live in, and we just it's like it is. And then today becomes some kind of an awakening where you're thinking to yourself, like, any one of those death threats, or, like right now, I'm talking to a lot of people behind the scenes to start doing a road trip to go out there, start doing town halls, talking about, it's just speaking truth to power, bringing, trying to get voters over, the other side. I mean, now, I mean, how do you do that? Like, it's scary. I mean, I got, 6 kids at home. I got a wife, a responsibility, and with the environment the way, so it's a scary situation to watch. It's a realization today that, here you got a 31-year-old young man that basically his whole life got wiped out because somebody didn't believe in, whatever politics he was involved with, or didn't agree with what he was saying. And
And
and, and that's crazy.
that is terrifying, and of course, this is intended to suppress free speech. I mean, these kinds of
So,
events are intended to do exactly what they will do. They've been designed to chill free speech. So, it's difficult, of course, to have the courage to do that. But when you can go out and face these attacks on free speech, the better off we all are, because ultimately we can't be defeated by it. We can't have the freedom and truth be defeated by events like this. It's just not. We can't let the bad guys win, quite literally. But just to catch everyone up today, we have the assassination, or what seems to be a political assassination, of Charlie Kirk, 31 years old, the founder of Turning Point, the youth movement that was so responsible for MAGA's growth and for Donald Trump's election. There was also earlier on a arrest of a person who was considered a person of interest. That person has subsequently been released. So right now, the gunman is still potentially on the loose. I mean, we haven't got that
yeah, there's
particular.
no in custody.
Not in custody. I mean, they certainly are saying, according to Kash Patel recently, that the person was released after being questioned by authorities. So, this person, we don't know if there is another person in custody, but the original person that they had previously thought was the person of interest is no longer there. Now, there is intriguing video out this evening of people spotting this potential shooter on the roof of an adjoining building, or an overlooking building on the campus. I'm going to show you that video. This isn't disturbing, except that it's the thing that happens just before the shooting. So let's take a look at it together and get our assessment of what was shot at clearly at the campus today.
Get right up.
Yeah. You think he'd already be in place?
You would think that. So there's somebody on the roof right there? Just saying? He just ran from over, where's my finger? Well, from over there, ran in, and now he's right there. Just saying, just get right up.
Yeah.
Watch it
You think
again,
he'd already
maybe
be
here,
in
just to get a
place?
good sense of it.
You would think that.
Yeah.
So there's somebody on the roof right there? Just saying? He just ran from over, where's my finger? Well, from over there, ran in, and now he's right there. Just saying.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a very dramatic footage. There's another video from across the way that can also see someone standing up and running on the roof. But that's all we have right now. We don't know who the person was who shot Charlie Kirk today, nor his ideology, nor anything else, or if it's a he or a she, or we just don't know.
Exactly. And the one thing that's troublesome, that you already have Donald Trump, and you have a lot of the mega attacking, saying it was a left wing, and that's absolutely, we have no idea. When I say that he was assassinated for his belief, Charlie Kirk believed in a lot of things that disagreed with mega. Let's take a look, for instance, with stance on Israel. He was very pro-Israel, where a lot, and he was also, let's take a look at the Epstein files. He was covering up for Donald Trump, after Donald Trump basically came out there and told him, to keep quiet. He flipped after the conversation. So, there was a lot of, disagreement lately that was going on inside of MAGA itself. So to come out there and right away start blaming the left, and start blaming people without even having, that is why we have what we have. And that is why how I started is, this is the society we live in, that we have the president of the United States without any proof. before you even get to the president of the States, you have an FBI director that is playing more a social media director than an FBI director, jumping around
Mm.
on Twitter, trying to be the first one that does a break. Just think about it. He wants to be the first one to break the news. He's the FBI director talking about, while they're having a press conference, he's typing, "We have the guy, we got him." Meanwhile, they're saying, "No, we don't have the guy. This is just a guy of a person of interest." An hour later, he's texting, "Okay, we got rid of it. We don't have anybody." I mean, this is just to watch the way this is all being played out. Now you got Trump coming out saying that, this is the left. I was just on a space on Twitter, and you had about over 30,000 people there, and they were primarily right-wing space. It was one of Mario's spaces. I don't know if you guys know about that space.
Yeah,
So I was on
Mario
that.
Nawfal. Yeah.
Yeah, Mario space. So I was on that space primarily all right way, and the consensus there, I just had to leave because I was getting to a point I wanted to throw up because they come up there and they talk about that, let's not make this political, and the first thing they do is make it political. It's like enough, guys. I mean, somebody just passed away. A young, like him, hate him, it's still a human being. Nobody deserves, I mean, to die because of their political beliefs. But to go right away and politicize it and say, "Oh, it was the left," it's because of the way the left keeps talking around, and then right away bring it back to the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. I mean, it's just sick to watch how they're starting to politicize this and use
I
this
agree
as a
with you.
rally cry, and take away from all the other things that right now, like the Epstein, like Ukraine, like what's going on in the
Can we
Gaza
talk about
Strip and
that?
everything else.
Is there a
Yeah.
diversion potential tactic here? I mean, you mentioned Epstein. He had flip flopped a couple of times, Charlie Kirk, on Epstein and Trump. Most recently, he was starting to talk about it again, having a quietened down for a bit at Trump's request. And so, just 24 hours ago, we were talking about Epstein's birthday book, and we're not talking about Epstein's birthday book anymore. We're talking about Charlie Kirk now, and I'm not suggesting there's a link in any way. I just am interested in the way this news cycle is always so manufactured.
Yeah, it's a big distraction,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and
Yeah.
it could be a big distraction.
Well, it is, whether or not it's engineered or
Yeah,
not. I
yeah,
mean, it's a distraction. So, Lev, to you.
Well, listen, again, at the end of the day, the news cycle, this is something that is, it's like a force majeure. I mean, if a hurricane came right now and all of a sudden, this is one of those things that, yes, it has taken over the news cycle.
yeah,
So for the next 24, 48 hours, I wouldn't expect, I would expect this to be probably one of the top stories because it should be. I mean,
yeah,
listen, you
absolutely.
have you have a young, again, political assassin, and especially at least, and right now, I mean, guys, let's talk about this. We have a killer in the loose, so
Mhm.
let's understand.
Mm.
So we don't know if this is, just like, look, remember what happened in Minnesota, that the guy had a whole list of people he wanted to go kill, and we don't know if it's a he, if it's a she, if it's one person, if it's a group of people, if this is maybe some outside forces, terrorist act, they're trying to incite violence here. We have no idea
Mm.
what this is all
That's a very
about.
good point.
And I think that's the important part, that we need to first find out, because right now, no matter how you look at it, I mean, it's a terrible thing to be able to, not to be able to go out there and sit there. He was speaking, and whoever saw that video, I mean, it was just horrific. And the crazy part is his kids and his wife were there while this happened. So, I'm saying to you, this is a horrific, horrific event, and the media should be dealing with it. But we will get to a point that and as sad as it sounds, and I do not want to politicize or talk about it, but I truly do believe, knowing Donald Trump and knowing the people, and I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I truly believe that they will eventually use this as a diversion tactic, that eventually they will try to take this and use this to somehow get away from the Epstein files, and get away with what's going on in Ukraine, and the attacks into Poland and other stuff like that. And ICE in, there's, what I'm hearing from my sources, that there we have ICE in, already laid out all over Chicago, Illinois, and it's just a matter of time that that's supposed to take place. So it's a really, really crazy situation right now.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you a couple questions, because there are some things that happened today, and Trump. We're talking about Trump, the weaponization of this tragedy, a family man, whether or not you agree with him or not, whether or not you were a Charlie Kirk acolyte or a MAGA acolyte. A man got shot in broad daylight today, in horrific fashion. And we've all seen the videos. Um, but I don't put it past Trump. The man, to use the death of someone that he has ordered flags around the country to be flown at half mast for, when he actually ordered the flags to be raised after a former president, Jimmy Carter, and John McCain had a problem with flags being flown at half mast, but somehow a political commentator for him gets the full, royal treatment when he dies. As sad as it is, as horrific as it is, not just the double standard, but then again, to your point, him recently in the last 2 hours has come out and basically said, hey, and you can see the tweet on the screen. He said, hey, listen, it's the left wing lunatics.
Mhm.
It is like the weaponization of this, and then to employ this honor guard of respect on behalf of the United States for this gentleman, whether or not you agreed with him or not, that Donald Trump didn't want to give that to presidents and prisoners of war like John McCain. I would love your thoughts on that, because to me, it seems like, the rugging or the using of this enormous tragedy, this horrific event, is already underway.
Well, that's the sad part. I mean, knowing Trump and knowing that group, I mean, they're definitely going to use it to their advantage. They're going to try to milk it and use it, that's the sad part, of this whole thing. But Charlie Kirk was more than just, I think, a commentator. I mean, I think for what he achieved at his young age by being able, just think about how many young people, how many, chapters of a turning point, and how many people he's turned. I mean, because he had a message, because he went out there and talked to you, and that's one of the things I keep telling the Democrats, that you need somebody like that. You need to come out there with the message. You need to go talk to the people, and he did that. To watch the machine that he built, I'm going to tell you, I mean, he was very close to Trump and the Trump. That's why, I mean, he was more than just the count. He was Charlie Kirk. I would say, was probably as close as they get into Donald Trump world. And listen, Trump's the type of person that, if there was a tragedy that happened inside his own family, he would use it to his own advantage.
Right.
But Charlie Kirk was as close as they come to me. He gave, and Trump knew it, and he even thanked them. And from what I remember and from my source on the inside, I mean, Trump basically knew that Charlie Kirk brought him that, the win in 2024 with the young vote.
Now, Charlie Kirk was also responsible for part of the January 6th insurrection. He had to Turning Point buses pick up a lot of the people who protested on January the 6th. He's been responsible for pushing a lot of Kremlin propaganda. He's very much pro-Russia in some regards in the war against Ukraine. Those are things that, are not going to make someone like you, very, very supportive of him. But, is that just
Well,
a...
I never supported Charlie Kirk. That's why I said me and him disagree. But you have to give him his due where it's due. And the other thing you have to understand with people like Charlie Kirk was not for Russia. Charlie Kirk was for Donald Trump. And if the narrative fit, and that's why you saw that play out with the Epstein files very well, him going back and forth,
Yeah.
because with the Epstein files, he actually had an opinion, just not like, because when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, for instance, most
Mhm.
of them, like Charlie Kirk, they don't care about Russia, about Ukraine, about what's going on one way
Right.
or the other. They want Donald Trump to get the win, and that's why. But with the Epstein files, it was a little different, and you saw that play out because the Epstein files hit you home. It kind of gets you into that really hard. Even though war should get, like Ukraine or Gaza, that should also really hit you watching all those families, kids get displaced. But to them, the Epstein files, like I said, because for MAGA, It was deeper than just the actual crimes. It was the lead in into the deep state that ties into the, all the different crimes and all the different people that they wanted to bring in and tie in.
Mhm. Fascinating. And what a lot of people don't understand is how Donald Trump's influencer network works, right? Like, that's something that some people like everybody thinks they understand, and they just assume that certain acolytes of his or influencer of his, and has Charlie Kirk been has he benefited from Donald Trump? Much more than most, obviously. And you would know intimately how much he has benefited from him, how much money he's made from him, because you were part of that America First super PAC. But I don't think people realize, in a moment like this, that a guy like Charlie Kirk, his political and ideological and religious beliefs brought him to Donald Trump. But more importantly, Donald Trump needed a guy like him and needs people like him. Because to your point, without Charlie Kirk, without Turning Point USA, without the enormous collegiate footprint that Charlie Kirk created as a man in his 20s, which is like, you know, hard to imagine. I'm not giving him credit for being like a visionary when it comes to ideology. I'm giving him credit when it comes to strategy.
Yep,
Is that
100%.
is that a guy like Charlie Kirk was more important to Donald Trump than Donald Trump was to Charlie Kirk, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, 100%. But the interesting part that you need to understand, it wasn't Donald Trump that found Charlie Kirk. It wasn't Donald Trump that had this idea of I'm going to have, Candace and Charlie go do this and bring the young vote. And it was part of that Russell Vaught, Stephen Miller Project 2025, the Federalist Society. It was going back then of part of this group of transforming and this country into what we're seeing today. And it was them going out there and bringing in Brad Pascal and all that. Trump, just happened to be there at the time, and Trump happens to be the face of this whole thing. He's the loudmouth. He's the guy that will go out there and say the things that nobody will expect or want to say. He'll diverse. But in the meantime, and that's why he's so great for them, because while he's diversifying, taking the attention away from what's really going on, they're able to actually execute and do all of these things that we're seeing that is destroying our country, from defying the courts to putting these drastic immigration rights, trying to push these tariffs, and so on and so on.
Mm. So tell me a couple, because I'm fascinated by your relationship with Charlie Kirk, but I'm more fascinated by how important he was to the ecosystem of MAGA, right? Like what have you, obviously you've talked to some people in the know today. You obviously knew Charlie Kirk, but what is MAGA? What is the White House saying about what happened today, and are they in a mode, are they, is this a vibe for them where they're like, oh my God, we have an ability to turn this guy into a martyr, or are they mourning the loss of Charlie Kirk? What are you hearing from your sources today?
A lot of mourning going on. Like I said, I think later on he will be turned into a martyr later on, once the mourning's over, once they once life goes on. It's like I remember when my father passed away, when that happens, when my mother died, you think that's the end, life stops, but eventually life goes on. The mourning stops, and then you start moving on, and knowing them that eventually they will use it to their advantage, and they'll try to use it to whatever they can, especially, like I said, depending on what reasoning and who the killer was, and what reasoning was it and how it happened. That also has a lot to do with the way this thing turns. If this happens to be some far left wing individual, you might start seeing, National Guard all over the country, Trump using it as something, really radical. If it's not, and that's why, this right now, like I said, I mean, we're talking about, something that just happened a few hours ago, and the assassin is still on the loose. We don't know if this is a one man or a woman, if this was a group, if this was a country, if this was plan. We have no idea what
Yeah.
this is, why this happened, and how it happened. But from what I'm hearing right now, a lot of people are shook. I mean, and not just I think in MAGA. I think just in general. I think people are shook in that world that are out there fighting. Political speaking truth to power, because you gotta understand, not everybody is corrupted.
Mm,
A lot of people on the other side truly believe what they're saying,
mm,
because just like, when you're in a cult and you get, cultized by somebody like a Donald Trump, and and you believe what you're doing. So, is it right or wrong? I mean, that's up for us to, as a society, to understand after it's done. But a lot of them are not coming up with these ideas or thinking. They are told, they believe their senators, they believe their congressmen, they believe the Fox television reporters, they believe what they're doing, they believe what they're saying. So, you have to keep that in, take that into consideration. So, but right now, a lot of mourning, a lot of, people it's just, sad to see, a young life go away, that, you know, and it doesn't matter who it is.
absolutely.
He was a father, he had two kids. He was an American, he
Yeah.
was an American.
Yeah, and I think that is the right tone. And I think that's the right response for anybody that understands what happened today. Charlie Kirk, assassinated, murdered at a rally in Utah by what appears to be a lone gunman who appears to be on the loose. Charlie Kirk vacillating between differences of opinion with MAGA. You've got. I've read everything today, from it's Israel to it's Russia to it's Trump to it's a trans person, and that's the danger you run into, is that everybody's getting ready to frame an individual group or a certain group of people or a certain kind of person for what happened today because it's beneficial to the cult, right? Whatever
Mm,
cult you serve. And it's fascinating to me because I've watched this video so many times. I don't know if you have, Zev. I don't know if you got the stomach for it. Lev, same with
I
you.
haven't watched that video. I've watched another video which we can play back, but it's not the one you've spoken about. But we can absolutely. We should just say hi to Nick right afterwards. But this is if I'm not mistaken, this is a video just before he was.
So, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
Okay. It's five. Okay, now five is a lot, right? I'm gonna give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
Get down. What the fuck?
Yeah, so
Terrifying.
for that to have happened at that specific time, when they're talking about equating trans shooters to mass murder, and Charlie Kirk gets killed,
Yeah.
shot in the neck, which was like, and I've talked to a couple of people recently. It was this perfect shot that went, through what appeared to be the right side of his neck all the way to the left side of his neck, as he's talking about trans shooters. And the answer to that question about how many mass shooters there have been in the past 10 years, it's 5,700. To rebut that question, just for fact's sake, because I love facts, the amount of trans people that have committed crimes is 3 out of 5,700,
School
maybe 4.
Yeah.
So, it is. I found that moment to be extra judicious, if you will, in a very bad way. I found it to be very interesting. I found it to be, this incredible moment where Charlie Kirk has a guy in the crowd ask him about how many trans people, which is a real hot button issue, specifically after what happened in Minnesota at the church shooting, where you had a trans person go and shoot a bunch of kids in a school, killing 2, injuring 19. And I thought to myself, my God, this is, as evilly poetic as it gets, according to the MAGA narrative. And I don't know who wants to weigh in on this. Nick Paro joins us. He's a veteran.
Ask Nick about this.
We're going to talk about a couple of different things today in terms of munitions and what happened and what he saw and what he's hearing. But and Lev or Zev, maybe either one of you guys want to chime in here. I just found that moment where Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck to be unbelievable, according to the public discourse that we're subjected to
I mean,
daily.
I think for certainly the timing related to the question is what I think you're pointing to, this transgender question.
Yeah.
We have seen and we've reported a narrative for a long time now, for 2 or 3 years now, that there is a movement to, weaponize trans people against society by MAGA. They've been trying to radicalize this group of people, through, whether it's through 4chan or 8chan or whatever it is. We've been tracking it for a long time. This idea of a trans liberation army has been floated around MAGA circles for a long time. So now to see these shootings show up with trans people suddenly picking up guns, which they had never done before in this way, obviously, and then going ahead and doing these school shootings and these mass shootings, and that begins to raise a question whether there's something operational here, something deeply like a psychological warfare operation going on to radicalize some people, or to to create this very violent movement, which is traditionally not been a very violent movement. And we've not seen, over the many opportunities that trans people or other people have had a chance to rise up, they've not exactly been violent in nature. Maybe they've been protesting at Stonewall or whatever, but it's not been the
they've
kind
never,
of movement to pick up weapons. And yet here we
right,
are,
but
with them
they've
trying
never,
to frame that.
but they've never also experienced somebody like Donald Trump that's trying to take away every single right they fought for since the inception. So I mean,
They've never had
that
really that many rights. It's only in
right,
recent
that's what I'm saying to
years that
you.
they've had the rights. So
Exactly. But just think about it. You
yeah,
just recently get it, and you get a guy like Donald Trump trying to take away everything. But I agree with you, Zev, 100% when it comes to, I mean, the narrative. Just think about this. Right, literally a day or two ago, or maybe within the past few days, Donald Trump, and I was going to speak. I want to ask Nick the next question is, came out and said that he was considering banning trans people from even being able to have a gun license to own
yeah,
guns. I mean, he was floating that idea in MAGA. And the other thing is that that this shot was done, which I'm assuming, I'm not a military guy and I'm not a weapons expert, but from the distance that they're talking about, this had to be again like either an AK or some kind of powered weapon, right? This wasn't like a regular handgun that somebody took out from across the football field and hit him in the neck. Nick.
Yeah, love. Thanks for that question, Dean Zev. Also, thanks for bringing me on tonight.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Really appreciate it. And for that, the easy answer is yeah. It was either a high powered rifle or it was some sort of bolt action rifle, some sort of single shot weapon that is medium high powered capacity. Like it's not a 50 cal round that hit him. It was a mid range 200 yard shot. So 520 feet. That's more likely. It was a weapon that could be easily assembled and disassembled because the person got away. I listened to Malcolm Nance's reporting on it too, and I trust his opinion quite a bit, is that it's somebody who would have been able to assemble and disassemble a weapon quickly, would have been a premeditated event or type of action. So in his estimation, it does fit and I would agree, it does fit it would legally fit the definition of terrorism because it's meant to incite terror to a group of people outside of the victim. And it's certainly doing that for a lot of people. So
is this an easy shot? Is this an easy shot for the average shooter? I mean, is this like it seems like a long distance away, 520 feet. But on the other hand, if you're a good shooter, maybe it's not so complicated to shoot that distance. Relatively speaking, to someone's skill set, is this someone
who's
trained?
qualified to do this? Yeah.
I mean, I could make that shot. Most folks who are trained in a weapon could make that shot. And if that person was actually was a professional of some sort or was practiced in a weapon, is it was a shot meant to kill. It was a single shot. There was no follow-up shots. There was no secondary, like, extra shooting into the crowd. There was nothing meant to hurt anyone other than Charlie
Yeah,
Kirk.
that's a great point, Nick, and that's something that's I think that should be right now a prime for the FBI, because this obviously it was Charlie Kirk that was targeted. There was no other shots. This was not no other people. That was one shot, one person, and then the guy got away. It's still incredible to see the way he was able to get away, or he or she or whoever that person was.
Yeah.
As Zev is showing, people seeing them on the roof. With there was heavy security. This was at a college. It was at a college campus. Am I correct? Right. This was a
Yeah, yeah,
college
Yeah.
Utah
campus.
Valley,
Yeah.
Utah
Yeah.
State University.
So there should be cameras all over the place. Right now, so I can't imagine that they don't know who
So
this
do you know how many
person at least looks
transgender?
like at the time.
It is really
Yeah,
interesting.
and
that-
I just sorry, Zev, I
please.
just want to kind of pump in here because to Nick's point, who is a trained veteran, he's trained in munitions, he's trained in riflery, he understands calibers, he understands a whole bunch more than we do. And Nick, just to back up kind of what Lev said and what you said earlier in your conversation with Malcolm Nance, who understands this, is that there are what 20,000 people there to see Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was the only person to get shot. Charlie Kirk was the
Yeah.
only person to die. There was no spraying of munitions. There was no, this was not a mass shooting. This had nothing to do with trying to take out as many people as you want. This was a highly targeted, visually stunning place to take someone out for mass effect, right?
Yeah, and so just to give reference for veterans and military folk and what we train on for normal long rifle for the M4, which is the military's version, the weapon that the AR-15 is based off of. The long range end of our qualifications is 300 meters or 328 yards. So that's the long range, and I'm looking at this in feet. So what are we at in terms of feet? Sorry.
No, do your quick math.
So
Yeah.
985 feet is the max. So this would be roughly mid distance for an AR-15.
So this would require.
Is this farther? I'm sorry. Was this farther than the Butler shooting or the Trump assassination attempt? What was
I
it?
think it's a little further than that. If I remember correctly, the Butler shooting was even closer. Wasn't that even? I don't know. It felt like it was even closer. I have to double check.
Because
the shooting for Butler was 400 to 500 feet, roughly the same.
Okay.
So this would be. So this is actually the mid-range portion of like an arms training for, like if you go to the qualification course for your primary weapon, which is your M4. This is the middle range, and you're meant to be able to hit this with iron sights, like no
scope
on it. So
Yeah,
if you have a scope on there with any sort of zoom on there, you could hit him in the neck without an issue like this. These weapons are meant to aim and shoot very, very precisely.
So let me ask you a question, Nick. Nick Paro joins us, former veteran munitions expert. He's a former sergeant in the U.S. Army. We're talking about the assassination, the murder of Charlie Kirk today. I've watched the video, got to be 150 times. And I don't understand exit wounds, but I do understand, the moment of impact a little bit because I did a little research today. When you see the exit wound and you see, the horrific bleeding that happens after that, from that distance to hit that target, does that not kind of up the ante according to the kind of individual that would have the qualifications to be able to do that?
No, not really, because these weapons are meant to be easy to shoot. They're meant to, anyone can pick up an AR-15 and learn to shoot it in 20 minutes and be like on target most times. That said, that's for like a chest body shot. If this person was aiming, and I'm not the person who was shooting, I don't know what they were aiming for. My aim wouldn't be for the neck. That's not typically, at least where I would assume to aim at. And because it's a very easy spot to miss. Like it's a very small target on a body. Like you're trained,
which makes the shot more
as a-
impressive, right? Like, which
Well,
no,
it either means they're a really bad shot at mid range and they just were really lucky, or they purposely, or it was a impressive shot and they were meaning to shoot in the neck.
Yeah.
If it was a rifle with a scope on it, like a real, like a bolt action or a long rifle, like a 243 or a 30-06, not a 30-06, because the exit wound would be way bigger. That would have decimated Charlie Kirk on the spot in a much more vivid and violent way. I'm surprised he didn't. To be honest, I'm just shocked he didn't die immediately. If he didn't, I'm surprised that they waited so long to call it, because those wounds you don't really recover from.
They waited for Trump to release the statement, I think, actually.
Yeah, I think so. But interesting, Dean, actually, I mean, when this happened, for those of you that are watching, I mean, it actually happened as I was doing live with Brian Krasenstein when he broke the story. Before, I didn't even believe what he was saying. We were talking about something else, and then right afterwards, we got on with Dean and Zev, and Dean is the one that, broke to us that he passed away, because we were watching it live happen. The media still, like literally 30 minutes later after Dean and his sources said it. So yeah, between Brian Krasenstein and Dean, you guys broke the whole thing.
What's really interesting to me here, and good work, Dean, on that. The interesting thing here for me is that he's gotten away. I mean, it's one thing being a precision shooter; it's another thing escaping law enforcement for this long. This is a major manhunt that's underway for this guy, and he is, or girl, or whatever it is, and it's evaded any arrest up until this point is quite remarkable. I don't think I can think of a shooting in the recent past that's taken this long to apprehend the person responsible. It's really disturbing.
Except for what I think happened, and again, I always hope I'm wrong, but unfortunately, I think these bumbling fools took somebody into custody thinking they had the gunman,
Right.
they had the shooter, and they basically stopped, went full force, and then when they realized it's gone, but by this time now they're going looking at video surveillance camera and trying to backtrack to find the person.
Yeah, and to that point, they arrested a middle-aged man, bald, and let him go a few hours after realizing that they got the wrong guy. And then I read a later report that there were 6 police officers for 10,000 students. 6 police officers on scene.
Yeah, that's really all they had. And some security personnel for Charlie Kirk, but there wasn't that's his own personnel that he travels with all the time. So not enough people.
And no metal detectors or things like that for screenings.
There were no metal detectors at the event?
No, I don't think so.
But that's that whole thing, that even Trump used to try to not have metal detectors at the rally. Sometimes it's that Second Amendment push that they try to push, that it's okay. They want you to be able to carry, and it's just a sad situation that that the gun rights, where most of America, listen, it's not about owning or having, it's the point of making sure it doesn't get into the hands of the wrong people.
Can we
So,
listen
so let me.
to?
No,
Sorry.
hang on. Just
Yeah,
just
sure,
give me a
sure, sure.
minute.
Absolutely.
I need
Sorry,
to
sorry.
kind of. No. Don't worry. Don't apologize. Because one of the conversations that is happening right now, and we're talking about the tragedy. We're talking about the loss of life. We're talking about loss of a father, loss of a son. We're kind of trying to disseminate and try and figure these things out. But the other side of this is that Charlie Kirk was a fierce Second Amendment advocate to the point where, back in 2023, he was on a panel, and I've got a post coming out tomorrow that kind of challenges. There you go. That sort of challenges the idea that Charlie Kirk went out the way he kind of maybe wanted to go out, which was, he had said previously, many times, guns make people safer. Guns are good. People are bad. The left is bad. The guns in the hands of the left are bad. And then he also said, effectively, yeah, a couple people might die, yeah, because we're a gun society, but those deaths justify the idea that we're allowed to own guns and protect ourselves. So, quote, it's worth it. Like, he literally said that. And so you're seeing two different reactions from people. Journalistically, we're trying to, go through this. And obviously, there are some tense moments. We're trying to calm down in terms of, the journalistic response that we're trying to give to this. But, and I'll put this to Lev. Lev, your thoughts, because Charlie Kirk, in my mind, as I sit here today, and this might change, he lived by the same sword that he died by.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Dean. Listen, I'm not going to sugarcoat and say Charlie Kirk, I agree with what he stood for, or that he was some kind of great guy, and that, his ideology was garbage. I mean, this was a guy that, really, and that's why I'm saying to you, like, at the end of the day, we don't, there's a lot of different reasons why somebody might have wanted to kill him because of a lot of different ways he approached his ideology. And one of them was the Second Amendment right. I mean, but it still doesn't give anybody the right to kill him, and and that's why it's still a tragedy. It's still, a political crime. But at the end of the day, Charlie Kirk was a fierce, fierce, fierce. What's the right terminology? I wouldn't say competitor. I would say maybe a fierce advocate for whatever he believed in, for whatever movement that they were pushing. He was part of that Project 2025 movement. He was one of the, main leaders of pushing it onto the younger generation. So when you put up a quote like that where Charlie says, the gun death's unfortunate, but it's worth keeping. It's the same thing when you got guys out there that are losing tens of millions of dollars because of Trump, but they say, I'm happy to lose the money as long as Trump is still president.
Sorry
It's
to
that,
interrupt you here, but can I just
yeah.
jump into MSNBC's coverage here, just because I've got an eyewitness speaking? I think it could be interesting.
Let's do it.
Continuing live coverage by
Maybe just
former
stopped
federal
a second ago.
prosecutor
Oh well,
Andrew
bad timing
Weissman
there.
and
Sorry, I apologize.
MSNBC
I
Justice
thought I would catch them,
correspondent
but
Ken Delanian. Ken, what is the
so
latest
they just
in
had
the
an eyewitness on
investigation
describing the
as
no
of this hour?
barriers and how easy it was to
Well,
gain
Lawrence, the
access
latest is a
to the campus. So I
puzzling
thought that was
series of
interesting.
social media posts
I
from the
also wanted to
FBI
pay some
director,
attention to the
who
governor, and I know we
announced
just stopped that
with great
conversation we were having
fanfare
before.
about
But
3
the
hours
Governor
ago
Cox
that the
of
subject, that's the
Utah
term
had
he
quite a
used,
stirring
involved
message,
in the shooting of Charlie
which I
Kirk,
think was worth
had been
listening to.
captured.
Any sort of
And
jump in,
he
Dean? Is
thanked
anything you
local
wanted
law
to do?
enforcement.
Yes.
Now,
Our nation is broken. We've had political assassinations recently in Minnesota. We had an attempted assassination on the governor of Pennsylvania. And we had an attempted assassination on a presidential candidate and former president of the United States, and now current president of the United States. Nothing I say can unite us as a country. Nothing I can say right now can fix what is broken. Nothing I can say can bring back Charlie Kirk. Our hearts are broken. We mourn with his wife, his children, his family, his friends. We mourn as a nation. If anyone in the sound of my voice celebrated even a little bit at the news of this shooting, I would beg you to look in the mirror and to see if you can find a better angel in there somewhere.
Governor Spencer Cox of Utah, they're talking about the broken nation that we're all referring to. And I was struck by how common that feeling was on both the left and the right. I mean, this is a Republican who obviously feels the same way as Democrats across the country are feeling today about how broken and polarized our country is and how broken the system seems to be to handle even our most basic democracy. I thought that was a kind of a stirring message that resonated with any American. I don't think anyone would have disagreed with what he said.
Yeah, and let me just kind of posit that, incredible statement, and you're right, by the governor of Utah. With he is referring to the environment, in my estimation, Lev. He's talking about the environment that has been created by one Donald J. Trump.
Yep.
Is he not? And do we not
Yeah.
place this right at his fucking feet?
Oh, 100%. I mean, as I said, I mean, I just took a look. They were just putting one of his quotes up on the screen as I'm scrolling through the different channels, watching, the different news breaking, the reporting on this, and he's already calling Charlie a martyr. He's already calling him a martyr. He's already using it as in his rhetoric and his hate speech. And mark my words. I mean, I wouldn't give him more than 24 hours that he doesn't come out and blame the Democrats all about this and turn this into a rally cry to, basically do away completely with it in his mega world with the Epstein files.
Yeah.
Because knowing Donald Trump, I mean, this is going to be his next step. He's already calling him a martyr. He's already, what's it called? And the fact that they don't have the shooter is even more scarier, because now it allows them to portray a narrative, whatever narrative they want to do, and control. They have the pulpit with the FBI and the DOJ. This is a really, really, really effed up situation.
Yeah. Well, and listen, there's going to be a time, and it'll probably be tomorrow, and we're kind of leaning into it now. Is who created this environment for political assassinations? We saw a couple of lawmakers in Minnesota get shot to death in their homes by a QAnon freak who was a Trump MAGA acolyte, like fucking radicalized lunatic. We saw what happened today with this gentleman that got shot, Charlie Kirk, shot in the neck. It was one of the worst things in the world. And somehow it always comes back to it being the Democrats' fault. And the interesting part is I'm seeing the outpouring of support for Charlie Kirk, his family, his children, from everybody, all sides. And I watched Donald Trump on Air Force One, Lev. Like, I literally watched him after those two lawmakers got assassinated in their homes, because that's what it was. They were assassinations. Assassinated in their homes through a door, or of a cop that pretended he was a cop. Is this fucking QAnon guy that walked in,
Yeah.
shot these people? And Donald Trump's like, why would I fucking care? I hate Tim
He
Walz.
doesn't.
Why would I care? And the double standard here tells me a bigger story that truly needs to be ferreted the fuck out, because we're in an environment that has wholly been created, a vacuum, a silo that has wholly been created by literally one man and his cult. And he can sit there and go, well, it's the Democrats, it's the left, it's the radical left, it's trans people. But that's the op, right? That's the op.
Yeah. Well,
And
just think of,
go,
yeah, okay, good.
no, go ahead. No, please.
No, no, I mean, you're 100% right. And when we talk about, political violence, and we talk about blaming the Democrats, that never happened before until Donald Trump came into into politics. Yes, have we had political assassinations? Yes, we had John F. Kennedy, we had Robert Kennedy, we had, Reagan. We've had that, because there's always, you have that crazy nut out there that doesn't agree with something happened, just like you have movie stars being targeted, and celebrities, that happens. But the environment that we live in, the division that we live in for the past, I'd say 8, 9 years since Donald Trump has come into the to the scene, the division that we have lived in that I was part of, that we caused in the first term and to the first 4 years. I lived it. I saw it. I was part of it. I was part of that rhetoric that Donald Trump blamed the Democrat. He learned that from Roy Cohen. Blame, blame, blame. Never think. I mean, Zev knows very well. Zev investigated this. I mean, this is where he gets it. Just think about since when was it always the Democrats' fault? Since Donald Trump came into office, starting in 2015, 16, ever since that, it's always been no matter what, everything wrong is the Democrats' fault. Everything good is the Donald Trump. Not even the Republican. It's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the fixer. The Democrats are bad. And it's been and this is all that's the same narrative that he keeps pushing. And that's why right now, nothing's going to change. They'll mourn Charlie Kirk for a little bit. Unfortunately, his family are the ones that are going to end up suffering, but they're going to be turned into martyrs. You're going to see them. You're going to see his wife probably being paraded at the next, turning, events, she's going to be at the Oval, and this is going to turn into a show. It's going to be, it's sad. It's unfortunate that because a person did die, he was assassinated by somebody that didn't believe for whatever he stood for, whatever the case is. And now you're going to see a major movement by the President of the United States. I think he's already starting to do it by just some of the quotes that have come out, starting to politicize this, turn this into weaponizations against the Democrat. But more than all, he's going to use this to do away with the Epstein files, to take away the complete scene off of it.
So is this convenient, or is this a strategy? Strategy, because I watched Operation Midway Blitz get underway today in Chicago, and it was in honor of Katie Abraham. Katie Abraham was a woman in 2023 who was killed in a drunk driving incident via an illegal immigrant who was driving drunk. And there were 588 drunk driving incidents in Illinois in that year alone. Only 3 were, people who were migrant. The rest were of American descent, and only 1 was an illegal migrant, and that was the gentleman, and that was the excuse that he used. And pay attention, people, because the strategy is important. That's the excuse he is using right now to literally go and take over and turn the United States, one of the greatest cities of the United States, and he's doing the same thing in Boston, who has an Asian American mayor. And I hate to kind of jump off the tragedy to the strategy, but you kind of have to, because Donald Trump never, and you know him, Lev, Donald Trump never misses an opportunity to be able to capitalize on misery for his own benefit.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, and the interesting part, what I saw, the message I saw that on Twitter that really got to me. I wanted to just bring, because somebody, actually, one of my subscribers, just posted reminding me, Elon Musk. Did you see Elon Musk tweeted out, basically said the Democrats are murderers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that. Like, this is going to turn into a major rally cry. And that's why, I hate to say it, folks, because we have to, somebody did pass away, but we have to be very vigilant and careful here, and we have to be very strong and not allow them to use this, as bad as this is, and use this turn this into a martyr situation.
Yeah, sure.
Flip this whole thing. We need to make sure that because there was thousands of victims with the Epstein file. There's these survivors, as we're standing there at Capitol Hill, Donald Trump still hasn't allowed them to come into the Oval to look at them and hear them, because he can't even face them. So, I mean, these are all tragedies, and these are all have to be considered. So, yes, let's give the time that's needed to mourn. Let's give the time to find out, but let's make sure that we do not let our voices be silenced. Not that the media doesn't start flipping this, because at the end of the day, today, I mean, just yesterday, there were the massacres in Ukraine. The massacres in Ukraine, the massacres in Gaza. I mean, the guys talking about allowing genocide to happen all over the world, and meanwhile claiming that he needs the Nobel Peace Prize because he stopped these wars that are continuously going on. We just had this. Just think about Israel bombed Qatar today, and if you would have never thought that was going to happen.
Russia attacked Poland today. Yeah,
Russia attacked Poland today. Thank you. Exactly, Russia attacked Poland.
This
and
narrative,
Charlie Kirk got assassinated. I mean, this is the world we live in.
this narrative building that's been, firstly, the Democrats have been calling in the whole day today. Democrats have been calling about peace and unity and condemning the murder, condemning violence. The people who are ratcheting up the tension and the volume on the retribution is coming from the right. It's coming from the Republicans. It's not the left-leaning Democrats who are out there saying, this is, good for Charlie Kirk's death or anything like that. They've been incredibly compassionate and very supportive of Charlie, even though there are such odds with these policies, or were with these policies. But this narrative building thing is so important. This is an information war. It's a narrative war as much as it's anything else. It's about convincing Americans that this one side of truth, or whatever they call their version of events, is the right side, and that everything we've known up until now has been the wrong side. I mean, it really is as simple as, turning the truth into lies and lies into truth. So they will start immediately turning the Charlie Kirk assassination into an operation to build a narrative, as you say, Lev, of martyrdom. It may even be that Charlie was at odds with the White House over Epstein at the end here. It may even be that that's the truth, but that won't be what Charlie will be remembered for. And in fact, the martyrdom piece of it, and his right-wing sort of Christian beliefs is what's going to land up emerging as these pivotal, memory point of what people remember him. But this is designed to do two things, as you point out. Just to build a martyrdom narrative, and then to wipe away any attention that has been given to the Epstein files. I'm very sure that's one of the things that they're thinking about right now, and how to amplify the story. And hence the half-mast till Sunday at 6 p.m. It's a long time for flags to be at half-mast.
For someone that has never served a day in government and never done anything for fucking humanity.
He's a podcaster.
He might lay him in state. He might have actually bring him to the White House. I mean, I'm hearing. I mean, they're going to turn this. No, Trump is going to milk this, and they're already. I mean, some of the right wing spaces and what the versions that they're talking about is that the Democrats couldn't kill Trump. They missed assassinating Trump, but they killed Charlie. So this is already, it's like the QAnon, that the Clintons drank blood, and the pedophilia, the deep state, that now they're the ones that are covering up. Now this is the same that is being right now, played out in a lot of the hardcore MAGA world, is that they tried to kill Trump, couldn't kill Trump, and they finally got to and killed Charlie. It's the Democrats, it's the trans world, it's everything that's bad that they envision that's bad, and they want to blame, is being put into this narrative right now.
Yeah, it's the radicalization of that perspective, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Nick. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. It's all the demonization bullshit. It's othering. They're taking any empathy that we have for each other, and they're trying to tear it apart by saying, oh, like the only people that I've spoken or like commented back to today after all of this are the people who are telling me, oh, it's too late, or we need to like shoot at people, or he got what he was coming to him. Okay, well, his rhetoric was fucking awful. His rhetoric
Yeah.
was shitty, and yes, his rhetoric led to the environment specifically, and Donald Trump's rhetoric and all of the rhetoric on the right that has been going on has led to this environment that is killing people. Yes, 100%. He is at fault in that chain of events that led to his own death. Does that mean he deserved to die? No, not by
Absolutely.
shooting. And if there was accountability we're searching for, which is what I would like for people who are trying to tear down my country and destroy my nation and the things that I love and ruin the future for my children and me and my wife and just everybody else around us, that's not accountability, that's vigilantism. And accountability is justice, is going through the justice system and actually being held accountable by other citizens for your actions and being prosecuted and going through a due process system. It's about justice and law and order, and none of this was that. It's just vigilantism, and that's getting people killed in the US, but also around the world.
Yeah, and vigilantism that has literally been put on stilts by a president who, with no information, the shooter is still at large. We have no idea who the person is. He is literally full force on Truth Social, on Twitter, blaming radical left lunatics right now. It is post after post, and if it wasn't me, they got Charlie. They wanted, like, I mean, the act is on, Lev. The full on, the rugging of Americans once again is on, and I wonder, and I don't know if it'll matter. I don't know if your insights will matter, but I wonder if anybody in that universe, anybody in that cult understands that not only do we not have a suspect, but that Donald Trump is literally projecting whose fault this is so that he can go out and do what Donald Trump does, which is tear down the United States of America.
No, I mean, that's the dangerous part right now, folks. I mean, the blinders are on. I mean, this is one of those things that basically took away, has united MAGA again, for the period of time. I don't know how long it'll last, if it will last, but right now, like I said, you're seeing people that were at each other's throats just a few hours ago, over the Epstein stuff that are now starting to, talk again and get realigned, because the conversation is not anymore about covering up pedophilia or Epstein. It's more of that they killed one of ours. It's like they tried to kill Trump, they couldn't get him. Now they killed Charlie, and using Charlie, because he was more, of that. Even though his rhetoric was very bad, he was liked very much inside of MAGA and the Republican group, because of his outreach to the young, to being able to bring that young vote in, and being able to get them, so the conservative vote into these colleges. So he was one of those people that is right now, his death is uniting, and that's why Trump's using it. That's why you're starting to see the rhetoric come out, and I think, that's why, it's till Sunday half mass. They're gonna milk it. I mean,
So what's the play,
you
Lev? What's the play for Democrats here? Because what they need to be doing is showing, almost as much unity around the condemning Charlie Kirk. They need to be stepping out even further ahead than Donald Trump in some ways. But what would you do? What would you advise Democrats, as I know you do on many occasions, to do here in order to ensure that this narrative that Donald Trump is trying to build doesn't take hold, because he's doing it right now.
Well, see, this is the problem, and this is a great question, Zeb, but the problem is it's not only just Democrats. See, you have a lot of fractions. There's the left, there's the far left, there's the far, far left, there's the, central, you have so many right now different parts. It's not like you have a united party. That's the problem. We don't have a united party on the Democrats, where it's one voice, one message, we're all together. You might have some outskirts. You have so many different messages, voices, and alliances and some of them, are, just as wacky as the far right. You know
Oh
what
yeah,
I'm saying to you? And
absolutely.
because of that, and that gives them the ammunition. That gives them the ammunition and feeds their base, because they're not gonna go listen. So I'll give you an example, and I'm not gonna name names because I don't want to be divisive here. But you'll have somebody that's way, way, way far left say something crazy like, you know what, Charlie Kirk is the devil. They should have killed him, his family, something crazy like that. You know what I'm saying to you? That
Yeah,
nobody, agrees with, that
that'll be a campaign. Yeah,
that will be their campaign. Not like where, let's say, Newsom or somebody else, or let's say, Raskin comes out and says, we condone no violence, we pray for the family, but we need to tone the rhetoric down and stuff like that. That's not going to be played. What's going to be played is some
He's some radical
message,
person on the extreme
radical,
saying something
correct.
extreme, and
That
that's
that
just going to inflame people.
and that's what we use. That was part of our MO when I was part of that mega group. That was part of our MO. We wouldn't look into, just trying to. We didn't have to make up messages, because you would just go get something that was coming out that was
Yeah.
far, far, far left, that didn't align with the party message that the party itself was against, and then they would just like, think about they're doing in New York right now,
yeah,
with Mandami. I mean, it's obviously the party doesn't agree with them, but for Trump and for them, this is a gold mine,
Yeah.
because they're dividing the party even more. You know what I'm saying to you? So, my message, it's difficult because they need to align. My biggest message to the party is they need to learn to how to control the news cycle.
Yeah.
They need to stop being defensive and stop being on the defense constantly and trying to respond to Donald Trump's attacks. They need to come out with their own message, their own solution, and not go far left, like, where we're gonna, even though I disagree with Mandami, but at least he has a message. That's why he has a chance of
Yeah.
winning, because who else in the Democratic Party is coming out with a message? With all due respect, Gavin Newsom, you guys might love him because he's coming out and trolling and fighting Trump, but that's not a message of how he's going to cure crime. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a message of how he's going to cure, economics. It's not a message of how he's
Affordability,
going
yeah.
affordability. So nobody's coming out with the actual message, like, to beat Trump at his own game. And that's what I said to them. I said, Trump says, Chicago, you have crime. He wants to bring in the National Guard. Try to figure out, beat him at his own game. Come out with a message. Come out with an idea. Come out with a game plan where you're going to go try. Don't come out and say we don't have no crime.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he wants you to say.
Yeah, he wants you to say that.
He's baiting you for you saying to you, because he's going to come in, he's going to give that snapshot. Because remember, Donald Trump uses snapshots. He's going to come in there 30 days, put the National Guard, get a snapshot of some kind of poll that will give him saying for those 30 days, crime was down, murders were down, blah, blah, blah. And then he's out of there. And that's the campaign slogan. And that's what the people in Chicago are going to see for the next year, nonstop, saying, you see, you liked it when there was no crime. You walked in the city when there was no, but in reality, it's not a solution, because he's not going to put the National Guard all over the country
Yeah, it's not
24 hours a
sustainable.
day. Right, correct. Just like what they did in Washington, D.C. The one thing the media doesn't talk about is, like, the first thing they did is they went in and they got rid of all the homeless people. What happened to the what happened to them?
We don't know.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying to you. What did they do with these homeless people? Where are they? Are they in jail? Are they, getting medical health? Or did they relocate them to somewhere else? Did they give them, what I'm saying to you? It just one day they came in, they just got rid of him. And yeah, it looks great, but what's going to happen now when all of a sudden the media leaves, all of a sudden it's all going to come back, and it's going to come back 10 times worse.
And we can agree on the assassination being a bad thing, and that gun violence like this is a terrible thing, and that we can't have people shooting at people and take steps to do that. I mean, the one thing the Democrats can talk about is they're further ahead than Republicans on on gun violence and on finding ways of stopping gun violence.
I mean, we talked about it earlier
Nick.
today. Sorry to jump in.
No, please.
I was on with the rest, some of the guys from Banner and Backbone, some of the other team that I have there, and we were talking about it's something that everybody's uniting about, or has united about, in general, is that there needs to be gun reform in this country of some sort. And
Absolutely.
I propose we figure out how to write the legislation for the Charlie Kirk gun reform bill, and put it out there. And so that, and I already just did, but somebody needs to write that legislation, because that will galvanize all of it. And somebody asked, why do that? Why name it after Charlie Kirk? Because if it fucking gets somebody's attention, and it grabs the attention of people who otherwise wouldn't listen, good. That's what they do. That's what Trump does. That's what,
It's a
I
great
mean, he's
idea.
a shock job.
That's a great idea, Nick. I mean,
It is a good idea.
I gotta say to you, that is a great, super idea. And if there's any, I mean, we should, right now, we got thousands of people following. Flood those phone gates. Call your congressmen, senators, write the letters. That's a great idea. Let's put together a bill. Let's put Charlie Kirk on it, and let's put together a bill there that for gun safety. Because again, we're not trying to do away with guns. I mean, Nick's a military
No.
guy. There's a right way. There's a right way and a wrong way. We all, to be able, just like anything else, and it all goes back to, from gun safety to immigration, just like to controlling crime. We all agree on these subjects. It's the way Donald Trump tries to exploit it, use it, lie to you, and the solution that he brings is so radical, is so hardcore, that it's not a solution. It only makes it even worse, and that's why we are where we are today.
He turns every solution into an operation. Donald Trump turns every tragedy into an opportunity. And what Nick is talking about, which Lev is co-signing and Zev has too, which I totally agree with, which is, let's put our fucking money where our mouth is. Let's, advocate for change and make Charlie Kirk, the vanguard of that change. Make his name the vanguard of that change, because we're in Canada. Owning a gun is a privilege. We if you fuck up and you've got a gun, you're never allowed to own a gun again, like ever. There's 20 million guns in Canada. There's 35.5 million people here, almost 40 now. And we don't have the same issues you have, and we've seen it before, time and time again. And listen, is bringing gun or a buyback program, is that legitimate in the United States? No, there's fucking probably 600 million guns in a country of 370 million people. So no, that's not going to work.
Well, but why not? Nobody's ever fucking tried it.
No one's
Why
tried
not?
it. Yeah, good point.
Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah,
Like,
Worked in
and
people are
Australia, to
asking
your
for
point.
money.
Yeah.
People need help. Like, you got 100 fucking guns at home. Go sell all your guns back to the government and get some money and
Hmm.
feed your fucking family for the rest of the 4 years. Like, you'll thank Donald Trump for doing it. And no, I'm not advocating for like what Hitler did and what the Nazis did, where they disarmed their civilian population. No. I want people to have weaponry and be able to protect themselves. And I have the ability to have rifles. Like, I want to have go hunting. I like hunting. I'm a hunter. But
Hmm.
I'm not going to go out and hunt another person. I'm going to go shoot a deer for food because that's
Hmm.
what it's meant for. Like, it's meant to kill, though. They're weapons. Like, that's what they are. That's all they're intended for.
and the other thing is, we need to go back and look at, again, we need a normal Congress. We need a normal body of power to change the rules a little bit, to take a look at it, because, you have people out there that can't get a gun, that for a white collar crime, let's say a taxes. Somebody didn't pay their taxes or something, and because of that, they have a felony, they can't get a gun. Meanwhile, a person that says that has maybe mental disabilities and that is walking around saying, "I want to go kill half the world or blow up the country," could go in there and go get these weapons, or other criminals could go easily go get these assault weapons to go do this crime. I mean, it's just little things like that that we need to use some common sense, and say again, background checks, mental background checks, all of these things. It's not saying to take away the Second Amendment. None of us are talking away to take away the second, and that is the key. That I think the message, and I'm not saying that's the message today, but that should be one of the major messages that Democratic leadership should be working on. They should be right now spending tons of money on getting that right message out there, using this situation, getting those PR. There's plenty of powerful PR firms that could come up with a powerful message that will use this. Like, just look at, we're sitting here with great idea. Nick came up here with using the Charlie Kirk, bill, putting it around it, going out there and hit them where it hurts, so before they could even get there. That's what I'm talking about. This is exactly right. Coming up with our message, and taking over the news cycle, taking over the message, and going on the offense. Let them go defend it. What are they gonna say? No, we don't agree with the charge. Let's disintegrate his name or something. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying to you? Put them on the spot.
Yeah, and
It's
really
like why we
emphasize. Go ahead, Eric, Nick.
Sorry, it's like why we go to No Kings rallies
Mhm.
with American flags and why you only show up with the American flag at your No Kings rally. What are they going to do? Be like, oh, a bunch of Americans are walking around with American flags. We should go hurt and shoot them.
Yeah,
No, that sends a really fucking bad message for your regime. That makes you look like a monster
yeah.
if you then go out and attack a bunch of Americans, especially a bunch of veterans who are going out and going, hey, look, I'm waving my flag. I'm wearing my hat. I'm wearing my shirt. Come shoot me. See what fucking happens. Like,
Mm.
galvanize around issues that are meaningful. And we all know gun reform is a key issue. And
Yep,
people on the right talk about it. People on the left talk about it. I don't want to take all your guns, but AR-15s, weapons of war, are not needed on
absolutely.
the streets and are not needed to feel safe. If you have to carry an AR-15 into the grocery store,
Something's
you should
wrong.
not be going into a grocery store. You should be going and getting mental health.
It's such a good
Absolutely.
point.
Sounds, yeah, we're living that means we're living in a third world. I mean, even in the third world countries, you don't walk into a grocery store with an AR-15. You know what I'm
No.
saying to you? So there's absolutely no reason for that. And that's I think the biggest takeaway from what we're talking about right there is that Democrats leadership put together a message. Put together a change. What is your message around gun reform? Don't just come in here and start saying all guns are bad. Don't come in here start because that's what they want you to do. That's what they're baiting you to do, to turn this into it. Put together a proper message. Put together and use this in a proper way, because this is now going to be the platform. Don't let them run with it. Take that platform away and then come back right back to it, to where we were before we got here, where we started from. Where release the Epstein files, stop the killing in Ukraine, stop the genocide in the Middle East. I mean, all of those things,
The
our rights,
takeover of
all that stuff.
Chicago and
The
Boston and
takeover,
LA.
exactly,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And
The
only,
removal of ethnic and racial profiling protections. Like, we should
yeah,
be talking about that too, and we're
Yeah.
not.
Well, we're not, because, we saw some horrific shit today. And, I'm sure that we will ferret out other conversations from this point in regards to the death of Charlie Kirk. I'm sure that, we're going to watch the increased rhetoric from the White House and Donald Trump. I'm sure that we're going to see some people get out of pocket, and I'm sure this is the beginning of more. But I want to thank Lev Parnas from Lev Remembers Substack. Go to Substack and follow this gentleman, Nick Paro, former American vet. He's current American veteran, former American
I'm not
serviceman who
former yet.
yeah.
Don't wish that
who
evil upon me, Ricky Bobby.
from I won't do that. From Banner and Backbone, a really cool new publication about patriots and former veterans who get together to try to inform you about things that we're talking about today. And of course, my friend Zev Shalev, who has managed to host this, produce this entire time. He is an investigative reporter extraordinaire. And it is almost 10:40, which is the witching hour for a 52-year-old like me. So where I am, and I'm in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Lev, of course, in the United States, as is Nick. It has been an absolute pleasure to not only, delicately, tread on the ground of a horrific event today, regardless of what you think, but also to extrapolate out with people like you, Lev, your history, and which is why it's so important. Number 1, 2, or 3 in world politics all the time on Substack. It's so important to have people like you and your insight here. And of course, Nick, so important to have you and your insight here as well. And just the humanity of this conversation has brought me to an incredible point tonight, where I'm going to get in the wrapper and I'm going to have a sleep tonight and go, my God, we did pretty good work trying to suss through a really difficult conversation about something that was horrific, but tried to contribute to, the social contract that we have. And we had Joe Walsh on the program from the social contract today, who was apoplectic. But, the bottom line is that we have a social contract with people to be able to kind of fill them in. And it's really important. You're part of the resistance. Really important that you subscribe to Lev, to Nick Paro, Banner and Backbone, of course, narrative.org, which is Zev's incredible documentation of what we see today, the investigative reporting in 40 years, which has brought us to this moment where Charlie Kirk was assassinated today, and the fomentation of, the cult, which has just been this incredible opportunity for us to kind of all get together and build this resistance. But it is never more important to share this content. It is never more important to be able to subscribe to people like Lev, Nick, Zev. So please do so. Lev, thanks for doing this. Nick, thanks for doing this. And of course, Zev, I'll see you tomorrow at 3:00, where you're going to have to put up with me for another hour. So my apologies.
Look forward to it. Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks for being here tonight. Have a good night.
I want to thank all of you. Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming here. And Zev, I just want to say this is incredible for the viewers. Zev, just what he put together. This is incredible, and I'm working on some really breaking news that has to do with Donald Trump, and some really investigative stuff. And when I'm ready, Zev, I'd like for your help to put together this also viewer experience, so we could go live, get some more audience in there, some more people. So, and when we break the story, this is great work.
Absolutely, yeah. There's over 3,000 people watching right now, so that's pretty great that people showed up tonight, and we appreciate you all, and we appreciate everyone who joined us tonight. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Take care.
Thanks so much for